I love all of it. Deep meaning in every bit of it, which is what I knew that you would bring. All right, we're going to wrap it up with 4 quick final questions as we round the bases. First one is this: if people heard me or thought they heard me wrong, I'll repeat it again. Devin is the father of 7 children, not just 7 children, 7 girls. You're the ultimate girl dad. You have to be the ultimate girl dad. There's 7 kids in that house, and none of them are boys. How in the world do you do it?
The only thing I don't have is a T-shirt. I don't have the girl dad T-shirt. So, but I don't think it's something you buy yourself. I think it's something someone else gives you. So I'm just waiting for the shirt.
You love it though, right?
Oh, I love it, dude. It's
the best.
It's the best, man. AGT, always give thanks. I mean, there's the first thing I think of. They are beautiful. 16 years old, all the way down to 2. My 16-year-old just booked her own flight to Alaska to visit some friends. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening around here.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, welcome to the rest
so
of your
proud
life.
of them. They're amazing.
That's awesome. Congrats to
Thanks,
both you and your wife, and amazing. It really is. Second question as we round the bases. You talked about the early influence of David Blaine. I am curious, have you met him? Have you connected with him?
Never have. Nope.
Let's go. When you, just curious though, like when you watch his stuff, I'm sure it blows your mind like it does everybody else, but I always sort of wonder for someone like you, if you have a different perspective, can you figure out what he's doing? Or is it as mind blowing to you?
Yeah. And so my perspective now is different than it was then. Right now, I just don't care. I'm just like, yeah, it's David Blaine. Back then it was a mixture of both. Some of the stuff I knew what he was doing, and some of it I was like, what's happening? And then a lot of it I was like, is this just because it was this prearranged on TV, right? And so I had enough of a knowledge of magic to where I could figure out most of it, right? And that's actually how I learned a lot of card tricks by watching him and going, oh, I can do that. Oh, that's a simple concept. Or I figured out just by watching it over and over and over again because I recorded it. And so I started to just like emulate him, not his personality. I didn't walk up and freak people out like, hey, can I show you something? Hey, big card, doesn't matter. You know, I was like, that's his persona, which totally worked for him, but that'd be weird if I did that. So I did it in my way. But then there were things where I was like, that had to be staged. And then through discovery of, talking to magicians and research, I found out, oh my gosh, that's a trick that you can do without staging it. And so a lot of those tricks became part of my repertoire because I was like, these are amazing tricks. So it was kind of a mix of both. Every once in a while, I'll see something random from him on YouTube or something where I'm like, I don't know exactly how that worked, but it doesn't bother me, nor do I care. That's kind of where I'm at now with, and honestly, if a magician can fool me, I'm appreciative, and I'm not like, okay, I need to know how that's done. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even want to know, right? I just want to enjoy the fact that I don't know. So,
well, that's called being older and more mature and not wanting, like you have the mental capacity for it. You're choosing to use it elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, people say there aren't enough surprises in life and enough mystery. And that's why we never find out whether we're having a boy or girl. We've never found out with him because we like that. What's it going to be? So, yeah.
Come on. I mean, after like the 5th, you're like, okay, it'll be another girl. Right?
Yeah, I know. Now we just, it's obvious now.
Obvious. Third question as we round the bases. I saw that at some point that you opened on stage for Sinbad. That's the name I haven't heard for a while. And Mike Birbiglia, who right now I think, in my opinion, might have the best special on Netflix. I think. I mean, I actually wasn't very familiar with him, and I watched it, I don't know, a month ago, and I'm like, God, this guy's funny and deep and going to psychological levels that I'd never seen before. And so I'm just curious what those experiences were like opening for those guys.
Yep. So I opened for them at a charity event here in town called Children. I get the emails all the time. Children's Variety of Kansas City. Yeah. So they help kids with mobile, and I'm sure you've done some work with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Special wheelchairs, vans, bikes, scooters, all that. So I used to do a lot of work for them at their annual charity event, and they would always have a big headliner come in, and they would always have me just open, do some magic, do some comedy before they bring that headliner up. And so one time it was Sinbad, one time it was Mike Birbiglia. Got to meet both of them. Really super nice, incredible people. One year, is it Gary Goldman? I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking Gary Oldman, the actor, Gary Goldman. He was the headliner, but I didn't open that year, so he's not on my list. But I'll tell you, if that the other person that I've opened for, that to me was even the biggest. This was one of the big home runs, right? And it just fell in my lap. It was I got to perform with Brian Regan, and I've gotten to perform with him actually 2 different times. The first time I was at the Kansas City, the Comedy Club of Kansas City, hosting, and he was in town from his tour doing a comedy night, and he dropped in and did a guest spot, so I got to introduce him, and it was like, that's a once in a lifetime experience, right? That's never going to happen again. And we're talking about Brian Regan, like my favorite comedian of all time. And then during COVID, they weren't doing big theater shows, right? So Brian Regan was doing comedy clubs again, and he came to town. And there's the day of, I had reached out to the Improv, when I found out he was coming. I said, if you need an opener, I'm here. Well, they didn't let me know till that day, hey, we're going to use you. And so I went and I got to perform with him 3 nights. Wow. Have dinner with him, hang out in the green room, do magic for him, like become buddies with him. I mean, we're talking like one of those, like, is this really happening? You know what I mean? It was the most incredible thing. And just to watch someone that you're a huge fan of, like my favorite comedian of all time, getting to just chill in the green room with this guy. Yeah. It was amazing, man.
Yeah. And when they end up being as good a person, and they end up being what you hope they would be, nothing better.
And he is. Yes.
Yeah, super cool. Last question, my walk off. It's, I don't know. I want to hit myself for this because it's such a standard question, but I'm going to do it anyway.
What's my favorite color? It's blue.
What's your favorite color? What's your sign? Favorite either trick of all time that you've done or something you would like to do? It's like when people ask me who my favorite player was or my favorite. Right. What was your favorite moment in the World Series? And I'm like, I don't even remember every moment. Yeah. But go on.
Well, I'm going to say the first thing that jumped in my mind, it's called the floating rose. And I first saw David Copperfield perform it when I was in 5th grade on one of his TV specials. And it turns out he's actually not the inventor of the trick. The inventor of the trick is Kevin James, not Kevin James, the actor, Kevin James, the magician. Okay. So the floating rose. And then I actually started performing this in my act because I was like, this is so cool. But so this is when I'm still just a kid wondering how he's doing this. And basically what he does is he goes into the audience, takes an audience member and pulls a piece of like tissue paper out of just a small square of tissue paper, rolls it into a ball, and to the music starts having this thing dance around his hands and like up his arms and up her arms. And I'm like, what is the, and then he uncrumples it, hands it to the girl and says, check it out, make sure it's normal. And it's totally normal. Then he folds it into an origami rose. And instead of having it dance around, he just has it levitate up into the air. So it's just floating there and he's putting his hands all around it. Then he lights it on fire with the Zippo lighter. And there's a huge flame burst. And he reaches into the flame and pulls out a real rose.
No.
Right? I know I'm describing it like I just saw it yesterday and I don't know how it works. I mean, this was years ago that I saw it, and I actually have performed it myself many times over the years. It was like my opener for like 10 years. But I think that's my favorite trick. It's so creative. It's so clever. It blows people's minds, and it's visual. And it was just one of those things I think that hooked me early on that made me say, man, if I could do this someday, this would be awesome.
I already found it on YouTube, a bunch of them, including Kevin James Floating Rose. So for anyone that don't type in the YouTube Floating Rose, or you'll get a lot of stuff that, roses that you could buy for decoration. But if you type in Floating Rose magic trick, then you will see some cool stuff there. More importantly, type in to your computer or phone or whatever you're using, devinhenderson.com. Something greater is always possible. Check out the video, check out the services. You'll learn, you'll be inspired, and hopefully everybody was with this podcast as well. Also, check out Devin's podcast. All the information is on his website. Devin, thank you so much for all the inspiration, for all the insight. Really, really grateful for your time.
My pleasure, Joel. Thanks for having me.